And that's how we welcome you to tonight's episode, the third episode of Cape Town Opera's celebration of South African women in opera. And tonight we have Magdalene Minnaar, and who is a singer, a director, a producer, and an entrepreneur. Magdalene, before we start with our chat, please say hi to everyone watching tonight.
Thanks, Masi. It's wonderful to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to actually spend time with you tonight. Magdalene, we know you as Magnolia from Showboat. We know you as Christine from The Phantom of the Opera. We know you as the director of Calling Us Home. We've seen you sing with Josh Groban. What we'd like to know tonight, outside of the cameras, the makeup and everything else, who is Magdalene Minnaar?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the makeup and the costumes and everything, because that's such a big part of being a performer. But my happy place is in my sweats and my sneakers at home with my husband and my kids and my 2 dogs. So I mean, very much a mother at this stage. I have 2 kids aged 2 and 7, so not exactly sleeping a lot and being entertained a lot, which is wonderful. And yes, I started teaching voice because of COVID, because our industry suddenly crumbled. So I had to make a plan. So I started teaching voice, which I actually love. And other than that, I founded an organization called Clever Classical Kids, which is keeping me quite busy at the moment, because we're busy rolling it out to schools and franchise and that kind of thing. And otherwise, I'm just quite heavily into organic eating. So I'm an organic gardener. Yes. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you. And, you know, so tonight we're celebrating South African women in opera. And when did you realize that opera was the career that you wanted to pursue? And after this realization came to life, how did you go forward with that?
Well, I was told as a small child already that I have a good voice and that I should pursue, singing in some way, shape, or form. And then I met Matilda Hornsveld at a young age, and she kind of gave me a lot of advice and advised me to go and study with the teacher that I then did study with, Nelly de Toy. And the whole journey led me to UCT, where I studied. So it was always kind of something that just happened. I never sat down and thought, oh, this is what I want to do. But I just always remember falling in love with theatre. I went to see theatre with my parents from a young age, and just I was also in the Pretoria's Children's Choir, and we were part of the ballet Midsummer Night's Dream with that phenomenal music. And I just remember the smell of the stage, and I remember standing backstage and looking back into the audience with the lights and everything, and just I don't know, it was just a moment of I'm home.
I've arrived. So it's safe to say that it was written in the stars before you even decided.
I think so. I mean, I have so many notebooks full of shows that I've thought out from a young age. Things that I've thought of, and just theatre that I want to make in my life. It's just always been in my journals and kind of in my dreams and in my wishes for myself. So it's I'm very much a theatre baby.
Lovely. Mm-hmm. And when we chose the song today that opened today's show, you were very passionate about the song. Tell us why.
So that particular song was from a production that we did a couple of years ago, which was directed by Jaco Bouwer and choreography by Ina Wichterich. Mm-hmm. And it was a kind of a pastiche in a way called Wahnsinn, with all kinds of mad scenes from different operas. And it was one of these things that, I was writing in my notebook, because I love writing. And I was writing something about mad scenes, and I wanted to work with Yaku, and I wanted to work with Ina. And then we sat and we came up with this concept of putting all these mad scenes together into a show. And it just became this incredibly physically demanding production, where I had to, like in that one I had to dance on point, and in the other one I had to stand on these, doing the Lucia mad scene, standing on these heads, balancing all the time. And it was all kind of ended up being incredibly vocally taxing and physically very taxing. But it kind of led me to also push myself and find the limits of where can you sing and where can't you sing. And as a director, that's really handy, because if a singer ever tells me they can't sing in a certain position, I can say, no, you can. So, which has actually proven to be quite a cool tool, is to help singers to find the correct position in your body to be able to do what it is that the director or the choreographer wants on stage. But that particular song was composed by Bram de Tooy, a very, very close friend of mine who's a phenomenal composer, and it's actually from a new South African opera, which is a topic that I'm very passionate about, is new South African works and specifically operas.
Great. And we actually want to see more. We want to see more stories about South Africa written.
Yes, absolutely. Amen to that.
I love how you mentioned the fact that if a singer says to me, I can't stay in a certain position and sing, because what I want to find out is, you're a singer, you're a director, you're a producer and an entrepreneur. Do you love all these roles equally, or is there one that stands out from the rest?
I love them all equally, and I also have definitely a kind of a pecking order. Look, the producing kind of came from the fact that I wanted to do my own productions, and I knew that the only way was to start my own production company. So I had to start producing, whether I liked it or not. Singing, I will always love. I love being on stage. I love singing. I have a voice that I can use to move people, and I love doing that. I love singing early music and oratorio and art song, and specifically South African art song. And I will always continue doing that. But definitely at the top of the list is directing. It is something that I can do all day, every day. I just love it. It makes me so happy, and I'm always learning. And I just feel that for me, it doesn't feel like work. And that is what work should feel like. It should feel like you're doing, your hobby.
Yes. And I love how we actually are now going to directing, because you are going to be directing Cape Town Opera's next touring production of La Bohème, that is going to East London, Graafrenet, Gqeberha, and Oudtshoorn. Yes. And I want to find out, there's people watching tonight that know that there's a director, but all they know is that the director directs. But I want to know what goes into such preparation of directing such a production. Like, what do you do as a director in order for you to make that work?
So with this specific production, it was a lot of work done with the designer, Bettina, who is a fantastic designer. She designed the sets and the costumes. But for me, the process is pretty much always very similar when tackling a new project. So I always start kind of from the outside and work myself inward towards all the details. So I start with history and with reading articles and finding out what the original story was, and are there other operas by other stories then set to music by other composers, which happens often. And it's interesting to then find the characters. For instance, the character of Musetta in the original book was very different. Completely different. So it's interesting to find these things out, and then sit and see, okay, what do I see? I'm a very visual person, so I have to go and I sit and I have lots of Pinterest boards and I look at lots of different things, and I write everything in my notebooks and on my post-it notes is everywhere, and I find kind of a visual reference or visual kind of a palette to start working with. And then normally there would be something that triggers me, and then I would go to the designer. There are some shows that I've designed myself, which has been quite hair-raising, but I loved it. I come from a very visual family, so it's kind of like in our blood, I suppose. And then I start working with the designer or the designers, and just taking that further and finding what it is that we want to show the audience. For me, then, it's a lot. I do a lot of spreadsheets. I love a spreadsheet. Dissecting the libretto, just going through everything that's needed, and slowly building these characters. Because for me, opera is all about the music and it's all about the characters. The sets and the costumes are only there to assist these two very big kind of elements. Correct. And I feel that in a lot of modern productions, this is getting a bit lost. So for me, it's very much going back to the character. A lot happens on the floor, in working with the actors or the singers, and just chatting to them and saying, so what does your Marcello what does he eat for breakfast? What's his favorite color? What sports does he do? What music does he listen to? Let's find this character and make it crystal clear for the actor, but also for the audience. Because in the end, when you have to sit through 3 hours of music and there's a pretty set, you're going to get bored. So it's very, very important to me that the message is really conveyed throughout the story. So it's very, very, very little gimmicks and lots of kind of detail work. And yes, and then the magic happens on the rehearsal floor.
And tell me, do you have anything specific that you want the audience to take away from this production yet?
Well, I mean, we're going to all these areas where probably they haven't seen opera in a couple of years. And I tell you, I'm so excited. We took a magic flute to Ermelo in the past 3 years. And it was the most phenomenal experience to just see 1,500 people pile into this town, the beautiful theater in Ermelo, and them wearing their like best clothes and just having this incredible night watching beautiful theater. And my wish for our Rebecca and Oudtshoorn and all our audiences is to just be completely submerged into gorgeous music and a wonderful, wonderful production with an excellent cast, by the way.
Great. Having worked with young people in youth development and education, most of them know that when you speak of opera, you speak of a singer in a ball gown with hair, and they don't know the elements that make up an opera, and directing is one of them, because for there to be direction in an opera, you need a director. What advice would you give to young people who are watching tonight, who says, oh, I want to be a Magdalene, I want to be a director? What advice would you give to those young people in pursuing that career?
I would say if at all you even think about directing, then just go out, find who it is that you kind of feel this is the style that I like. Start looking at what kind of sets do I like? What kind of productions do I like? Do I like super modern productions? Do I like traditional productions? Just watch a lot, learn a lot, watch masterclasses, listen to podcasts, brush up on your theater history, brush up on your operatic history, know voices. That's very important as a director. Because you cannot work with voices if you don't understand how a voice works. Well, I don't believe you can. And brush up on your own acting skills, because that is something that is incredibly important, is that you have the ability to convey to people what they should be doing. So you need to know the technique. And these are all things that you can actually learn for free on the internet. It just takes time. It takes a lot of passion. I'm sure there are lots of courses out there. And then just start and just do it. Do your own production, or, go and shadow someone. Go to Cape Town Opera and become an assistant director, or just sign up. Just say, I want to do an internship. That's always a wonderful way to start. And then just fake it till you make it, If you really want to do it, then just start and just do it. That's my advice.
Thank you. Thank you for that advice. And I hope the young people and all those that are aspiring directors took note of that, because there's quite a lot that you say that I think is going to be quite important. So we've got Batini Sikaka, who just asked now a question and says, how about shadowing you?
You are more than welcome, Batini. More than welcome.
Lovely.
Speak to Masi and we'll arrange it.
Batini, you can send us an email on info@capetownopera.co.za, or you can actually just send us a DM on Facebook or Instagram, and then we'll get you in contact with Magdalene. Magdalene, highlights. You've done a lot. You've sung, you've directed, you've done operas, done musicals. What are your highlights or your highlight in your career?
Oh, gosh, it's such a difficult question, because I really, it sounds like a weird thing to say, but really each production that I do is a highlight for me. In each production, there is so much to learn, and there's so much to take home, and so many memories. Showboat with Cape Town Opera was wonderful. It was such a wonderful tour, such a stunning company, just the most wonderful company ever. So that definitely is a highlight to me. And actually, you know what? The Cape Town Opera Studio was a huge highlight for me. The amount of roles that we had to do was inhumane, but we learned so much. A wonderful experience. But also small productions have been highlights for me. I recently did a La Bohème, the one-woman opera with the great Janelle Versace, who's a dear friend of mine. And that was it was such a small experience, because it was just me and her and the pianist, and lots of emotions, because it's a very kind of a hectic opera. But it was just so wonderful, So I don't know. I think everything is a highlight. I think La Bohème is going to be a highlight too.
Yes, we're looking forward to that. Right? Tell me, you just mentioned the Cape Town Opera Studio. For someone who has no idea what that is, what is the Cape Town Opera Studio? Because we've changed the name now to Young Artists.
Yes, it's changed. You're right. So the Cape Town Opera Studio was a young artist program, like I said to you, in the 1800s. Not really. It was like the early 2000s. Was myself and actually one of our cast members, Zandile, who's now Mzazi. She was in the opera studio with me for 1 year. Lots of great singers. Golda Schultz, who is now doing phenomenally well overseas. She was in the studio with me. Janelle Versace. The list goes on. Lots of wonderful singers. And it was kind of in collaboration with UCT a lot of the times. And I remember in my time, I was there for 2 years. It was always a 2-year, kind of a tenure. I did 20 roles in 2 years. Yeah.
So it's
a lot.
It's a pathway from being a student right into professional life.
Absolutely. And the wonderful thing, because I went overseas a lot for summer schools and other courses and things. And the thing that they always commented on was, oh my word, have you sung this role? Have you sung this role? Wow. Was it like a small production? No. It was like an artscape on the big stage, the opera stage. And they can't believe it. They just, because it doesn't work that way overseas. It's not as kind of, you don't get thrown into the deep end like that with these big roles, So it was a wonderful learning school.
Thank you for letting everyone know what is the studio, because we've got people that do know what it is and some people that do not know what it is. So that
right.
what is a studio now? Because yeah, I want to find out challenges. You know, when you started talking, you said you're a mother of 2. You know, you don't get sleep. You're getting nothing. Now, I want to know, what challenges have you encountered in your career as a singer, director, producer? I'm going to put them all because you wear all those hats as much as
Wow, I'd say the biggest thing a lot of the time is because I've been a lone wolf for a long time with a kind of a small bespoke production company. Funding has always been quite a big thing. Just because there isn't a very kind of a clear infrastructure for funding in South Africa. And on the other side, it's a very positive thing in South Africa is that you can actually just do your own thing. So that was kind of a hurdle turned into something positive. Otherwise, I suppose that thing of you're too young, you're too old. that drives me nuts, honestly. It's like, but I mean, that's a small thing. Otherwise, I don't know. I think the hurdles are just part of the journey, man. You can't do anything and just like land stuff. You have to suffer a little bit. And, and I had no one holding my hand, no one flying with me overseas. When I had to go and do auditions, I had to pay for it myself. I had to do 5 different jobs to be able to pay for stuff. My parents did help me. But it was tough. I was traveling on my own, losing your luggage in the plane, getting to London. It's cold. You don't know where you're going. You have to hop into H&M and find new clothes because your luggage was stolen. I was in New York once going to Chicago for auditions, and my bag got stolen with my passport, with my wallet, with my audition music. My whole audition bag got stolen. And I still had to go and sing this audition. It was hectic, but these things shape you, and they, you cry afterwards, and then you're like, okay, it's one more scar, so it's one more, I don't know, strength.
And I do think that every challenge that we go through shapes who we are. It makes us who we are.
Absolutely.
At a challenge, it builds up and makes us a different person and a better person. So everyone watching tonight, Magdalene will be directing our upcoming CTO production that is touring in East London, Gqeberha, Graafrenet, and Oudtshoorn, La Bohème. And please, tickets opened today at Guild Theatre. So, and there's only 50 people allowed in each performance. There's only 2 performances. Please book through CompuTicket. And Magdalene, before I let you go, I have one last thing to ask you.
Ask.
So if you had to go back in time and you're walking down the street and you met your 14-year-old self and you had something like words of wisdom that you would give to your 14-year-old self, something you did not know then that you are very clear about now, what would you tell 14-year-old Magdalene?
Gosh, that's such a profound question. I would just hug her. Say it's going to be okay. I think just that it's okay to be different. It's okay to be passionate about something that not necessarily everyone else is passionate about, and to basically just kind of, go for it. That's what I would say. Don't worry about what other people say. Don't worry about being the cool kid. Just go for it and do what makes you happy. That's it.
Thank you very much. And thank you for gracing us with your presence tonight. We look forward to receiving you in the next week and a half in Cape Town when you will be directing our upcoming La Bohème.
Wonderful. Thank you, Masi. It was wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you. Diane, thank you very much for managing this webinar tonight. And everyone that joined us, Conroy, Elizabeth, Batini, Rikus, Leslie, everyone who's commented tonight. And thank you very much for joining us on the show. And tomorrow, we speak to Rabia Davis and Juanita van Wyk. They'll be talking about what happens behind the scenes, the things you don't get to see. Rabia is our wardrobe manager, and Juanita is our stage manager at Cape Town Opera. We look forward to speaking to them and hearing about the things that they do and about their lives. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m.